The fantasy setting has always been the type to introduce a lot of new ideas to the anime medium. Placing a story in an environment that is anywhere but Earth allows all sorts of unique elements, world building, and innovation to take shape. A common subgenre known as isekai has pretty much become the norm when it comes to utilizing a fantasy world. As much as I do think the idea of the main character being able to go into a new world is cool, it has definitely become oversaturated. However, that's not to say that we don't get great isekai, because we have certainly had some hits over the past couple of years. From series like ReZero with its amazing storytelling to the recent success of The Eminence in Shadow, and I guess I'll throw in erectile dysfunction tensei in there because it's hard not to mention it given its loud amount of controversy, no thanks to Rudis. For every one good isekai though, we tend to get 10 of them that all have MCs from the Kirito OP protagonist bloodline, and they tend to be what Giga usually describes as the isekai trash. There's also the few animes where we deal with reincarnations as an object, because who doesn't want to be reincarnated as a vending machine, am I right folks? Yet fantasy anime is not just isekai, and at the core of it all should be about the natural born fantasy setting that has its own established world and unique storytelling rather than just the MC coming from another world into. Osama ranking being one of the recent hits with Boji and Kage's story in a land where kings are ranked based on all sorts of feats and merit with an abundance of danger and magical elements lurking around every corner. Or maybe you're a romance fan and have been tuning into Sugar Apple Fairy Tale and the story of Anne and the fairy Xiao pursuing the heights of the sugar confection crafting society. To simply put it, we don't get a lot of fantasy series that drop us straight into the world with so much to look forward to, and it's also quite good in terms of the quality. Every blue moon, you will hear about something that is immensely looked forward to, and in this season's case, we arrived at Frieren. Going into this, I was already really intrigued by all the trailers, and with the anime being pretty much well on its way, in just a few episodes, I genuinely feel that this show is a perfect representation of fantasy anime at its best. When you're first introduced into a brand new fantasy world, there are always a couple of questions that come to mind. What type of world is this? Is it full of magical and ancient beings and humanity spread out living in peace respectively, or is it in a time of chaos and danger? Who inhabits this world, whether it be all sorts of different races or just beings of chaos with their own cultures and lore that contribute to the world building of the series? Finally, who is our MC and what message or story are they trying to tell? Fantasy has this way of delivering emotional messages in such a meaningful and captivating way, especially when it comes to humanizing characters under the not so normal circumstances. Yet that's the exact direction Frieren takes a step towards while also answering the rest of the questions along the way. I think one of the stupidest complaints I've seen about the show so far is that it's trying to give us a pity story about these characters that have died, and it's forcing these emotions out of the audience because we didn't see the original adventure. I don't know who needs to hear this, but there is a clear reason why the series is called Frieren, relating to the one elf mage of the group, and also has the Beyond Journey's End part as well. If the author wanted to show the original journey, they would have just made a prequel to this one, but that's literally not the point. The show is focusing on Frieren and her life past the original journey, with her main party showcasing not only how she has changed from the journey, but also showing a more vulnerable side to her as well. See, one of the things that is commonly touched on in fantasy series, especially around elves, is that they have a longer lifespan and always tend to outlive human lives by decades more. This already sets the idea in motion of expecting the day of loss, and within the first few episodes, we saw Frieren not only have to come to terms with the death of Himmel, but also Heiter. What may seem like such an insignificant amount of time for the length of the journey is a lot more valuable when it comes to her human companions, and icing aside, their final days were always going to come much quicker. You don't always feel what is lost until it's gone, and one of the most important things Frieren questions is her own willingness of getting to know Himmel more. Why didn't she do it? What stopped her from doing so? And it's these questions and feelings that she is following up on. Even with their journey, even after his death, her desire to understand the emotions and meaning behind her companions' fleeting lives grew strong, and that right there is a perfect premise to kick things off. The 4-episode premiere set the narrative tone perfectly, and it also showed us what we should expect on this journey in terms of the weekly experience. While I do expect to have some more good action in the future, our journey entails many more activities and interactions that take place within the world, and quite frankly, nobody is watching this show for the fights anyway. Whether it be lending a hand in town for an issue, or crossing through a dangerous area on land or at sea, and even just talking to the locals and getting to know the area, there is a lot of immersion present throughout the story. It's not so much about getting you to care about every single person you meet, but more so making sure to allow the audience to care about where they are alongside our characters. It's the smaller things you are able to appreciate as we steadily build towards the bigger plot points, because the groundwork and character development laid out now shines the brightest in the more heated encounters towards the future. Of course, what makes this journey truly enjoyable is the party members themselves, and both Fern and Stark are the perfect companions, from personalities clashing to the writing and impact of their presence. As jokingly much as as Heiter was accused to be a corrupt priest, the best thing he did in his final days was save Fern's life. Again, with the show displaying the value of time in one's life, her trying to cut it short because of her grief was something Heiter couldn't allow, and instead helped her find new purpose. One that is of a mage and party member under the guiding eye of Frieren so that she may live up to her potential. Outside of the S-Class reaction images, Fern's presence has been greatly appreciated because of how she interacts with Frieren. In many instances, Fern has probably seen more new sides to Frieren than her original party has, and from helping her get up in the morning to working together on requests throughout their travels, you can clearly see that Fern has so much to offer. Her life becoming so much more valued where it initially was wanting to be thrown away. No longer are the times of sorrow and grief hovering over her heart, but instead creating happier memories with somebody that guided her towards a purpose. I'm not sure if I should simply interpret their relationship as master and student, mother and daughter given Frieren's age, or even sisters in the magical arts. But what I can say is that this is such a healthy showcase of how two people who have come to appreciate one another through finding new purpose. While he's still new to the cast, Stark has also began to assimilate into the group as the apprentice of Ison. Being a warrior is not all about strength, and sometimes there are more things important to have in one's mind and heart. Villain Saga talked about breaking the cycle of violence and releasing yourself from the shackles of the mindset of having enemies. In Stark's case, he had the strength he needed to fight and protect, but what he lacked was the resolve to use it. His fight against the Red Dragon is just one of, I'm sure, the many examples we will see when it comes to him stealing that resolve. This journey will allow him to accumulate many stories so that one day he can return to Ison no longer a coward, but just like Fern, as somebody who is living up to the potential he clearly has. Also, that fight against the dragon was nuts. I mean, even Nakamura showed up to drop some clean cuts. Talk about a passion project. Every episode feels like it can be a journal entry recording the day. Each week we see more sides to this party, and even though I'm keeping in mind the fact that we are still early in, this is by far one of the best back-to-back starts an anime has had this year. You are given reasons to care about our party, you're slowly but surely given new insights into the world and its inhabitants, and this season doesn't look like it has any plans of disappointing. I know people hate when things get hyped up like this, so I'll wrap the video up by saying this. The anime community is always constantly talking about things like seinen anime and emotional narratives being the quote-unquote better stories. Even while I think the take is dumb, Frieren has managed to deliver in the face of so much anticipation without being some heavy action series, and being able to do so by capitalizing on such a compelling narrative alone deserves the hype. I'll say it once more, but if you are not watching Frieren or have it in your backlog of things to watch, this is your time to start episode 1. You are going to see people talk about this show for the rest of the year, and quite frankly, it has earned the recognition. That's pretty much it from me though. As always, thank you for watching, and make sure to let me know all your thoughts about Frieren in the comments section down below. Stay warm out there, and I'll catch you all in the next video.